12 at this stage.
Yeah, we've had count 12 there. And the reason I wanted to get Gerry over here, Gerry, people might be familiar with him. He's been on the Clare Echo podcast as well. But I wanted to, it seems like a long time now since we've used the tally figures, but we do use them for 12 or 13 hours in the absence of an actual official count. So Gerry is probably one of the architects and kind of the overseers of the Clare tally, and has been for a number of years now on the Fianna Fáil side of things. So I just wanted to maybe review how it is we do the tally, or how it is the tally is done. But maybe first we'll have a look at that count and what Gerry perhaps makes of that count. That was the 12th count. And
it was the distribution of
Dillon's
A2's vote.
And if we even take the expertise, and everybody talks about the expertise of the tallymen, last night at 12 o'clock, just after a short number of counts, a lot of tallymen were predicting the 13th count for the election of Timmy Dooley. Did you were able to see that?
Yes. It's amazing, really, the predictability, Gerry. What's your thoughts? Can you give us your thoughts at the moment on where things are as we stand on the 12th count?
Yeah, I suppose that was a bit of a surprise. Maybe I thought that I think the background
punch is now ahead of Rita McInerney.
Well, yeah, because I thought the background of the Dillon vote would have been more kind to Fianna Fáil, if you like.
Yes.
But that didn't translate the way we had hoped.
Yeah. It's more of, would you say it was more of an opposition vote? That,
it seems to have been.
An independent opposition
It does,
vote.
yeah. And I mean, Eddie Punch came out really well out of that, which I don't think a lot of people would have expected.
He mightn't have expected it himself.
No. Well, probably, yeah. I was looking at him over there, and he was happy, but I think he was a bit of a surprise as well. You know?
He's been quite transfer friendly, you know. He's over 2,000 votes got in transfers now at this stage, you know.
Yeah.
And if his initial first preferences were that bit higher, he could be not too far away.
Yeah, and I think he'll maybe reflect on that as well, because he was involved with the farming organisation, and the history of the last election. Some of the farming organisations, particularly the beef plan movement, had a huge impact on Michael McNamara's election. And I would have thought that there was maybe an opportunity for alignment there, but that doesn't seem to have happened. So that goes back to your point. There was an opportunity there to maximise his first preferences. You would be having a different conversation.
He got plenty of preferences, but not enough of...
Not enough.
Gerry, John Kelly here. You're the first tally boss I've ever met. And I know that there are listeners out there in East Clare, and they're hearing tally boss. What exactly is the tally boss?
Well, the tally is probably maybe doesn't get enough of attention, but it's the only opportunity you get to get the level of intelligence down to ballot box level. Because when the ballot boxes are tipped out, we have people lined up opposite the checkers here, and it's the only chance you get to see where every preference coming out of that box is. After that, they're all...
Have you got to be very fast with the eyes?
Well, on this particular occasion, the bloody ballot paper was 2 foot long, so you have to be pretty good. And, you know, part of what I had to do this time was we have people that have been very loyal to the tally team going back over decades.
And this tally team crosses parties, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Well, we have two general... I think traditionally, when I came into this first, going back... I met it for a good few years, though, but it was Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, but we had some input from the Green Party this time as well, and that worked very well also. But you'll have to be diplomatic in saying people who have did it for decades. Well, you know, maybe your eyesight or your reaction mightn't be as good, and that was one of the challenges you had to face this time.
There's politics when it comes to the tally.
Absolutely,
as well.
there is. But I mean, I'm very proud of the tally this time, because
it was quite accurate.
We were only a couple of hundred votes out of 61,000, which was phenomenal. And I suppose we learned a lot from the tally we did in June. We weren't as disciplined in it, and we took for granted that people who were doing it for years, you know, would know how to do it. And it's not that they didn't know how to do it, but the key piece of the tally is to keep your focus on what you're doing, and not discuss it with, you know, someone that's tapping you on the shoulder and say, how is this one going, or how is that one going?
And do they do that? Do they tap on the shoulder and say...
Yeah, absolutely.
John, I mean,
they do,
myself and Paul were hovering over shoulders.
Yeah,
now, we were wise enough not to distract the tally.
No, it was actually a sorting tally. We were trying to do a number 2 tally at that stage. So
but that's probably one of the worst things you're trying to do.
But this was after the tally. This was after the tally.
That's fine.
Gerry, I wouldn't mention that.
But some people do. Some people will have an option, you know. You have other people that are focused on, well, the ballot box I'm on, you know, and then you have the support people that take it from the lads that are doing the actual physical tally at the counter at the ballot here or at the segment here, bringing it back to our IT people to input.
And they're putting it all together.
Yes, yeah.
Gerry, you said that's the only opportunity. When, let's say, all the dust settles this evening, everyone is, our 4 TDs are elected. Nobody gets a chance to study those ballot papers again, do they?
No, they're put into storage by Kieran O'Donnell and his people. And
Well, I think Gerry's point there is that it's the only point, and there's a debatable point about this as well for some people. It's the only, that point of introduction of the tally is the only point in time that you have a chance to identify the vote in Mount Shannon or the vote in Ennis Diamond or whatever. It's the at a local level.
Oh, right.
So the only time.
And is able to compare. I mean, without the tallies, what we're doing this weekend would largely be impossible.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's so important, that time, that time between 12 o'clock in the day and 9 o'clock at night. You're in the, and if you didn't have information, well, it's going to lead to a lot of problems and a lot of maybe tensions and things. So I think it's a great service that's being provided. That is provided. Like I get the point that some people make about the sanctity of the vote, and maybe are you compromising a little bit the privacy of the vote in some format
when we know
you know what has come out of it. Yeah. So fair. Look, fair. It's a point.
But it's at a different level. You know, you're not drilling down to individual ballot papers, but it's cumulative on the ballot box, which I think is, you know, it's a really valuable asset to have.
Gerry, how many tally people did you have this weekend?
There was Kieran O'Donnell and his staff they were counting 31 boxes, or they had 31 stations, so they had 31 boxes tipping over the whole time. So they had 2 people flattening out the ballot paper. Basically, just very basic stuff. You take the ballot paper out, you open it out, and we marked each one of those 2. So we had 62 people marking each of the 62 that was behind the counter. And you stay at that. You have to have people then, when the box is finished, and there's 2 papers for every box. So you have to make sure that you get the 2 papers that come up as well. You have people then, support people, taking it from the counter here back to our checkers.
Runners.
And you have to make sure that they, you know,
don't get waylaid
by people tapping them in the shoulder and whatever, or maybe
and forget to bring up a paper.
Gerry, I want at least I've got the tally.
Well, the other piece of the tally then is you get the checkers have to start to check it against the numbers, and then you have 2 people that will input it into the spreadsheet, and that's the.
It's a big operation. I mean, about 80 people is what I'm.
You do,
And you got to remember as well, no more so than the people that are checking the tally people here. Somebody is over their shoulder, might be nudging them and saying, do this, do that. Go over to the inputters and the technical people. Someone is over. I want it. I need it. I got to get something of it now. And there's pressure all the time.
And one thing we have a debate about over the last few years is people want it up on the screen, but I absolutely do not want it up on the screen, because everybody's distracted by it. It's not just the media people, but my people doing my tally are up as well, and they're distracted, you know. But look, I have to say this time it worked really well with Fine Gael and with the Green Party. It was really successful.
Paul, the second question I have for Gerry is, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall when you, as director of elections for, you were director of the Fianna Fáil. How do you actually go about the discussion where one candidate might like to feel he could be or she could be given a segment of the county to herself or himself? Did you ever come, I'm not asking you to say it in relation to the current situation, but did you ever over the years come across problems in relation to that?
Not really. You could manage that, because generally the candidates, they have maybe people on the tally team, you know, that they would suggest people to you from the tally team. But you can't sort of put them into where they need to go from a geographic point of view, because you don't know where the box is coming from either. Until 'tis opened, you don't know.
They're brought up at random, are they? They're not brought up in alphabetical or numerical order.
But they've no advantage anyway.
Maybe, what the question you might have been asking there was, you know, let's say, getting ready for director elections this time for Fianna Fáil, you know?
Yeah.
You look back on the last elections tallies, you know? And do you have an input in deciding where candidates or where the canvasser should concentrate on?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the.
That's part of your brief.
That's part of the strategic information and part of the strategic decisions that you make. You know, no, it's not my decision where the candidates go, but you feed that into the decision makers in Dublin. And I'm on the national executive with Fleming and Paul anyway, so that helps me. You know, but that's my information exactly.
This year's tally, no more so than 2020's tally, will feed into the campaign. 2024 tally will now be used for the 2029 or 2025 campaign. It will feed into how it is Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael or the Greens or whoever choose to run their next campaign.
But won't he he'll get blamed if things go awry.
I think he's going to get a bit of a pat on the back this time.
But Gerry, did you anticipate the level of support that Timmy Dooley has got?
I did, yeah. I mean, he's a huge amount of. I remember.
He said he didn't.
Well, I remember up in the Falls Hotel in Ennis and we said the Saturday night of the first night of the count, and I think he was something like, he was on a couple of hundred votes, I think, behind Joe Carey. Yeah. And the person that was being eliminated was Roisin Garvey. Yeah. Like the unpredictability, okay, this is only one tool in the strategic decisions you make. Yeah. But there's a lot of it outside your control, but I would have put the house on Timmy getting elected that night because I thought from the background that Roisin had that we would get more and that he would make up that gap. But Timmy got, I think, less than 700 of her transfers, whereas Roisin or Joe Carey got 1,500. Yeah. Which, you know, the logic of this sort of goes out the window sometimes as well.
Times they are changing.
No more so than, whilst it's an independent, but he's a part, no more so than the Dillon. We'll be looking at this one now for a couple of days. The Dillon to Punch, not that anybody's winning a seat here, but that's a huge transfer from Dillon to Punch. 900 votes. Yes. That's a lot of her. That's 30% of her vote. That's a weird one, you know. But like I'm saying, these are the kind of things to look at.
This is where the irrational. Well, from our perspective, there is some rationality in it, but I mean that escapes me as well. Yeah. You know.
So you'd be kind of pondering that one.
Yeah, but that's no more.
Teresa McInerney to take more of those.
You would, and particularly with the background that the Dillon girl has back there from her family, you know, and geography.
We were talking about it before you came on, Gerry, and one of your colleagues there, she did feel that Eddie Punch would take a lot of those votes, but
I'd love to know the reason for the.
I would too. Yeah,
that was the word that come in from the floor. That obviously people.
Oh one of the lads there was telling me as well that that they were watching the distribution. They were watching the boxes.
But the lady who was here earlier on, she felt that
Fiona.
She called it very well, didn't she?
She was getting
it.
Yeah.
I'd love to know the logic behind that, because anyone that said it to me, they just said, like you said, that they were watching the distribution there. But I would again have thought very strongly that Rita would have benefited from that.
She was very poor.
On Rita's vote, are you surprised that it's not larger?
To be honest, I am, because she got that vote. You know, she didn't get the vote she got the last time, and she's had a much better platform.
And that was the council election, yeah?
No, the last general election.
The last general election.
That's right, yeah.
She had a much better platform this time. She's an elected councillor. She wasn't the last time. Yeah. She's the chair of the Kirush MD. So I am,
to what extent, Gerry, must you take some responsibility for this outcome?
You didn't knock on many doors, did you?
No, this is a glass half full, a glass half empty kind of a question.
This is one of the things that you don't do when you're in the director elections, because you can't sort of
show
canvas
favour
with any of them, because you will always have issues. Well, you canvas with me in a country area, and you canvas with me in Ennis, and you know there's no equaling.
You couldn't win at that home.
You couldn't win, so I just don't canvas at all. But my role is trying to fill the gaps.
In terms of that strategy that you and your colleagues would have devised for Fianna Fáil, is there something you would have done different, knowing now what the result was?
There isn't, because going back to the question you asked about my surprise for Timmy has an office that has worked really hard, and the point I was making there that I went off it a bit was that he must have felt really wounded back in Ennis, because it was a terrible situation to be in, I think, and particularly from the transfer piece on the Sunday morning. He was always going to fight on his back, and I mean he didn't start this a couple of months ago. He's at this with 5 years, and his office have put in huge performance as well. So what you put into it is in direct proportion to what you come out of it. So I'm not surprised really.
And tell me, how about this question raised by somebody in the western end of the county? 3 TDs potentially from a small couple of parishes in East Clare and ignored the West.
Yeah, I mean, the 4 TDs potentially will be from the third eastern part of the county.
East of the Fergus, as somebody described it yesterday. Yeah.
And what do you say? What will you be saying to that voice from the West?
It's a very difficult. I don't know. We're not going to get an answer to that.
Is it population?
It is population is one aspect of it, but there has to be other. There has to be other stuff in it as well.
There is, of course, other stuff. Population is one thing, but if you look at population and you expect population to keep manifesting itself, then you've got to go back to ask that question: why did 895 votes travel from Kilmurray McMahon down to Cratloe?
Yeah.
Why did they go from Dillon to
I'd love to know the rationale for that. I just don't understand. Yeah. But this
we'll tell you. We'll tell you in due course.
Well, the usual answer is it's a very sophisticated electorate.
I would have thought maybe the opposite. Might be the case. I mean, if people had if they wanted a TD in the west or the north, they should have been more of an alliance. I just don't understand it. But even the party thing, I think, is diminishing. You saw Tom Nolan's distribution there.
Yeah.
Fianna Fáil got more than
45%, Fine Gael 37% of the Tom Nolan distribution.
It doesn't make any logic.
The old reliables, Gerry, isn't it? The very strong party vote, the power of the party has reduced, and maybe also this geographical view might be lessening as well. Otherwise they would be voting.
But I think there'll be half the population tomorrow, lamenting the fact that they don't have a TD representing them. And
so will they be reflecting on that in 4 years or 5 years?
But I'm not sure what you can do about it. You need a platform as well. To sort of the exception that you become a TD if you don't be a councillor and if you don't, walk your way up. Yeah. And
if you were to look at it strategically, so as a numbers man and as a director of elections, and to know how can you get bang for your buck. And I know you've expressed a good, strong opinion about the 20,000 votes that aren't government votes. I heard you on the Clare Echo, and it was very well teased out and thought out. If you're a strategist and a director of elections for Fianna Fáil, and you've got now, you could have won 2 seats 5 years ago on 34%. Fine Gael have done it historically with as low as 26 or 26%, I think, in 2016. Just the way it falls for you. Yeah. Strategically, is there a way for Fianna Fáil, taking account of the West, to get to 3 seats with under 50% of the vote?
I'm not sure we'll ever get a situation where we'll have 3 seats.
Them days are gone, are they?
They're gone. I'm not sure it'll ever be a 4-seater again either.
Well, that's another point.
Yeah, because we're the highest. We're the highest at the margins of what it should be. Right. Probably be a 5-seater the next time.
Really? What's the guidelines, Gerry? How many? What would
I think it's a TD per population number.
Yeah, and we're at the very top end of that ratio.
Very top and across the country on that.
So if we were,
we're quite close to a 5th seat.
Yeah, exactly. And traditionally, not traditionally, but in the past, we did have a 5th seat as well. So maybe that might be possible. All right.
Put on your strategist hat to try and get 3 out of 5.
But I mean, go back to Bill Loughnan's when we were, we'd say, a chunk of Galway came into it as well.
And a bit of South West Common.
Small bit
of South West Common as well, wasn't it, that time? So Bill Loughnane,
it'll be interesting.
I'll throw a question to Owen. Owen, are we going to hear a lot of moaning now from the West for the next 5 years? We've woken up tomorrow and realised that they don't TDs?
Yeah, I spoke to a couple of people from West Clare last night, and I think there are people who did vote for Rita or for Dr. Nolan, and they were saying that West Clare doesn't have a right to complain at the moment because they had the opportunity to vote for the West Clare candidates. So I don't know. I suppose it would be a handy platform for someone running from West Clare in 5 years' time to say, that shower above in Dublin and that shower above in East Clare, we have to, we have to get our share.
But Gerry, given that Timmy and Cahill and Donna and Joe will be very conscious of what Owen has just said, and will be very conscious that the West will be looking at them, will they go out of their way maybe to satisfy the West?
Well, if I was sitting in one of their shoes, I'd be considering maybe putting an office back in Kilrush or up in Simon as a constituency office as well, and consolidate that. But there still has to be an opportunity to get a representation.
Gerry,
in vast west of the
apropos that, Paul, we'd be thinking that the radio, Scariff Bay Community Radio, which we're part of, that this has introduced a wholly new dimension into the political experiences in East Clare. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's a degree of intimacy which we pursue in dealing with
Our community.
our community.
Yeah.
Very, very strong community sense.
Yeah, and you,
Am I right in
you
saying-
influence people as well in the community, which is
Yeah, yeah. So one wonders, would the idea of a radio, is it to be reckoned with?
absolutely. But I mean, they have a presence back in Kilkee where Glashka Bashkin is there.
Behind us here, we're
Yes,
part of
and-
here
and
today,
of
sure, yeah.
course-
Yeah.
We're doing
Yeah.
a simultaneous broadcast with them right now, so
Yeah.
and have been
so
yesterday
the
as
West
well.
is listening.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
John.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
have to think
yeah,
about
Jeff.
the West as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I mean, it is part of a strategy that and it's very effective in East Clare because you do have an influence on people, and you're right. It's
But we didn't tell them to vote for East Clare people, though, did we?
No,
we gave
not
everyone a
at
chance.
all.
you didn't need to.
And Gerry, one of the things that, and I'll bring Owen in this one as well, if you have an opinion on this. We've had a number of guests up here at this table thinking about the role and impact of social media. Now, you're an old hand, you're wise and wily in the traditional ways. What's your view on the impact that social media has or has not on elections?
It has a huge impact now, and like traditionally, the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael would have, their method of canvassing and influencing people was knocking on the door, have the register of electors say, how is what you call him behind, in the family, you'd know everyone. But like that's only one aspect of it anymore. The other aspect, and we've had it in the council, I think we might have talked about it before. There's a number of other aspects. One aspect I think is if you get a candidate that's energised enough, you have to tap into the network they have as well. And like the last time, you have two councillors down in Shannon at the moment that their own network, if you like, had to complement the Fianna Fáil network, and they're younger people, and they bring along that channel into the social media, which is hugely impactful because you're knocking doors anymore. You don't have a family behind the doors. You have the younger people aren't reading the newspapers to the same extent, and they all know that, but they're influenced by what they see on social media, and that is, and I said it I think on one of the podcasts, this is only the tip of the iceberg. I think when my young fella is doing, he's involved in AI, and some of the stuff that's coming down the track is going to be unbelievable. We won't be talking about this type of canvassing in 10 years. It'll be completely different. But I think that the canvassing has changed dramatically from the one channel of knocking on doors and engaging with people with the register. That's only one aspect of it anymore. The network that people bring in, we had Pat Shannon as well as Michael Shannon back in, he engaged with Kilmurray McMahon and the football club. It's all of that, and the social media is going to be more and more a part of that anymore. But it's a so specific sort of a talent to get into a campaign team that you'd ignore it at your peril.
Our party.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking over my shoulder. No, sorry.
No, I was just going to say Donna McGettigan has used social media very effectively for maybe 5 or 6 years, and I think that has been a big factor in her campaign, and first of all to the county council, and then into the Dáil as we expect in the next couple of hours. But there's all sorts of questions around the impact of social media. If you look at it in a broader context, I mean, it's making it very hard to be a politician. I mean, the abuse that your own candidates have gotten at times has been, I would imagine, very, very hard to take.
Absolutely, very hard to do.
We had a great chat with Mark Dunphy yesterday evening, who ran Joe Cooney's campaign and his use of social media.
Yeah.
And they would be buying time and space on social media, which is principally Facebook. And he said that Donna McGettigan, and you can decide which category you're going to buy. Donna McGettigan bought hers for the under 55s, whereas he said he went for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, hence I didn't see anything out of social media from Donna McGettigan. I saw it from Joe Cooney, all right.
But that's an example of how sophisticated this market is getting, and it's going to get more and more like that.
But your Facebook profile is all categorised there, and your geographic location, everything else, and you decide to go to approach and use Facebook. You approach Facebook and say, right, I want to advertise in the Shannon area, and they can literally sell you that, and anyone that they have is pop it up on their screens.
Can
But
we do a
Donna
straw
also used it
poll?
very effectively in that it wasn't just about what she paid for. Over a number of years, like her involvement in tidy towns, things like that.
Yeah.
The
And
traditional
people kind of felt
On
community
that's
ignored,
it.
I'd
Somebody's
say.
harvesting that information.
Yeah.
Big Brother is really watching us out there. You
Now,
know?
John Kelly, have you got social media accounts?
Have you a Facebook account?
Facebook,
It's in the house.
It's in the house. It's in the door, but
Yeah.
I'll answer no.
No,
Gerry, have you got social media account? You do.
I do, yeah.
Can we ask what it is?
what?
Facebook, Twitter?
I have Facebook, Twitter, yeah. I do it, yeah.
Yeah. Your phone, your mic
your
has gone off
microphone,
there. It's a
David,
maybe.
it's gone.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. And Paul, have you social media?
What you got? A dormant, inactive social media. I can call myself Facebook that I don't use anymore. Twitter that I just get for
How about
information.
yourself?
and-
Yeah, I
You'd
do
be
have
tuned
them all,
into it, yeah.
But I deleted the apps some time ago, or a few of them, because I was spending too much time on them. I was trying to get off.
Yeah, you get addicted to this, you know.
Yeah, so at least I still look at my phone, but I've made it a little
Yeah.
bit harder for myself, so I stay off it a bit more.
But I mean, one of the things that gets done, and Mark Dunphy would tap into this as
Yeah.
well, is that it gets people talking. You know, people were talking about Joe Cooney and what Mark did for him. That you know,
And what
they
about
mightn't
that?
necessarily vote for him, but
Yeah.
it's topic of conversation.
What about that slogan? Talk to Joe.
Yeah.
But do you
I bet
remember
you wish you thought of that, did you?
do you remember the time? Yeah. Do you remember the time when we look forward to the Sunday, the horse cart out at the gate of the church on Sunday,
The
or
back
a
of the
lorry,
lorry.
a tractor,
Yeah.
or a lorry? But it started with the horse cart. Okay, and there'd be the odd scrap, you know, because there
Heckling.
wasn't.
Heckling.
Oh,
Yeah.
even stronger than heckling.
Yeah.
You'd hear your father talk about that, would you?
I did.
Yeah.
You never engaged in it, did you?
I know. I witnessed that.
Did you?
I did. Yeah, the outside mass thing was a huge.
That was,
and it was as a kind of a throwback, perhaps, an attempt or an effort was made by Michael McNamara. I think in 2020, was it?
Yeah,
There was-
outside the cathedral
Outside the
in Ennis.
cathedral. Do you remember
Yes,
that one?
yeah, I do.
He tried to resurrect. No, he didn't sustain or keep it going,
Yeah.
but he did try to do that as a nod, perhaps, to the past.
To the past.
It was an interesting. Remember, they often talk about, sometimes even though things were a lot tighter then between Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and it tended to be those two candidates that spoke outside mass. But there was a kind of a hefty kind of a competition between them. But the order, some people might feel, well, I should be allowed to speak first, I should speak first. But sometimes the cleverer politician might say, go ahead, speak first, and I have a chance then to refute all it is that you say.
Yeah.
And people go home with that in their head.
Yeah.
Do you know? So
But you're the more captive audience that time too. I mean, we stand
Indeed, of
outside
course.
churches now, some places, and
You could be on your own.
be on your own.
Yeah.
I was going to ask there, Jerry, or anybody else might have a point. Interestingly, we're talking about bringing to the game, so to speak. I'm just thinking about it actually last night or on the way home even. Are Fianna Fáil, and specifically, all parties really, this applies to all parties, are parties becoming more of a franchise operation for candidates? You know, this thing about True Blue or True Fianna Fáil or whatever, are they becoming almost like an addendum? The party is incidental, and that it's more about the candidate than it is about the party.
I still think you need a party brand, and you need a party organisation. In our case, it complements what their team is doing as well. You know, you have to have everything.
How do you make sure that is the? I won't call it dominant, but that is, I know
No,
you have to have
it's relevant.
That
it's not dominant.
That it's
And
stronger.
that goes back to the point. It's not dominant anymore.
Yeah.
But
I kind of see it like you do as well. I think you can really see it in local politics that the councillors don't divide on party lines in the way it did. When I started working in Clare Champion in 2007, it was much more noticeable. The Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael divide was really noticeable, but I think that's kind of evaporated.
It has, yeah.
And I noticed that won't say the name, but one of your candidates I thought was kind of pursued a policy of criticising many things the government were doing, which doesn't really make sense if you analyse it. But a lot of people don't. Yeah,
Trying to be an independent within the party.
Yeah, I suppose you do what you have to do, don't you? But
But how would you identify the party? You know, if that becomes the more dominant theme of the future, which is in the conversation.
But that's what I'm saying.
But I think a franchise is a great way of putting it.
Are
It's like a franchise.
Are parties losing their identity to the identity of the individual? That's if you know what I mean. That's part of a party.
Yeah.
Now we got this dispersed group of individuals
Yeah.
that are supposed to be a party.
Yeah.
And it's a
The one person that got mentioned in that line, Paul, was Heather Humphreys when she decided late in the day not to run, and she had a very strong presence of her own and huge personal support,
Yeah.
Did that transfer over to the next candidate? Not really,
No.
It's the individual.
There is, yeah.
Is there somebody thumping? No.
I think it's just testing the microphone, really.
Testing one, yeah. That's one way.
But I think the party will,
all right. Sorry,
it's going to have an impact for, I think, the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
I think it is.
The party.
Yeah.
But what will it mean? There'd be 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 as we had here in Clare, all with a party name. Meaning,
I think there's a difference that some of the parties, or the newer parties, they're created, I think, for maybe different reasons than maybe what we're talking about.
Yeah.
They're, if you have a party, if you have the category of a party in the Dáil, for example, you get speaking time and you get yes,
you can say
funding,
the word.
you get funding.
Yeah.
There's different motivations, I think, for setting up parties than come back and people are tapping into that, I think, now more than ever. Even at the moment with the parties in the outgoing Dáil, they wouldn't have been heard of going back a number of years ago, but the reason for getting them, for setting up the party, is speaking time and funding.
Yeah.
And people are tapping into that. But I think anyone that goes, still goes before the electors, they need Timmy would say Timmy had a huge campaign team out, and Cahill had a huge, and Rita had a huge team.
All volunteers by and large, yeah.
Yes, and volunteers, exactly.
Yes, yeah.
But they're still complemented by, the support they get from the organisation.
Yeah. Next question for you, Gerry. Sorry, going off the fee you pay to get your name on the ballot paper, €500. 20 candidates in Clare. Would you rise that a bit higher, do you think? And
we just had a conversation for half an hour.
Go on, we want to get your views on it now.
My views probably won't be too popular, but democracy is great.
Yes, it is, but it's taken us until what time?
I can sense it.
Sometimes you need to guide it as well.
Yeah.
And the idea of I used to have great respect for people who put their name on the ballot paper.
Likewise, yeah.
But I'm not sure respect is the right word anymore. They probably mean well.
Yeah.
But they have no awareness of a campaign. But like we were saying earlier, it's an opportunity maybe to get heard where you normally wouldn't be heard.
Yeah.
But, there should be, I believe that there should be a different criteria to get your name on the ballot paper than just rock up with a few quid and put your name down.
500 is too little anyway.
But the 500 quid is only for the party. It's much less for an individual.
Oh, is it?
It is.
I didn't realise that Gerry said that behind we were talking.
I did not either,
So,
Missed my chance, John. Would you have gone if you'd known you could get your name on the ballot paper for a couple of hundred?
but that'll always be a difficult thing to handle as well.
I know.
You'd be hammered for being, whether it is anti-democratic or whatever. But democracy is great, but sometimes it needs guidance, I think. It's the nicest way.
It's like somebody said democracy, it's the worst form of government, apart from all the rest.
Gerry, the next question for you then, when are Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael going to join up? Will it happen in our lifetime?
I don't think so, no. I don't think it will.
Yeah, we're speculating now. This will be the third government that we expect that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael would be leading.
Yes.
And there has been an anti-government sentiment out there, but maybe by the time the next election comes around, that anti-government's campaign might be just rising further, and Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael might suffer because of that, possibly,
Well,
and after that, maybe they might have to look at.
Well, on this occasion, they haven't suffered because
no, that's right.
The two parties cumulatively have increased their vote.
Yeah.
And the 20,000 that we've talked about before, and I've often referred to, is the reason. My rationale for saying there was always an opposition TD here.
Yeah.
That's static.
Yes.
And I think they fragment their situation by having, like you said, so many candidates going forward.
Yeah.
If they were more consolidated, and
if the left got their act together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Then you would have a different sort of dynamic, I think.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen, I think, either in the near future.
I would have heard in the last couple of weeks, and maybe whether it's the national media or whatever else, they were just talking about a good bit of noise coming in there now.
There's a little bit of noise coming through there, and we'll try to sort that out. Go on, Tom.
I lost my train of thought there for a second. Yeah. Sorry. Go on, David. Yeah.
I mean, there are parties around the world, I think Japan, where parties have dominated politics for decades. We're now facing into nearly 18 years of Fine Gael government, when you look at it. Is it becoming the norm? Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael. I wouldn't say Tweedledum and Tweedledee because that line has been used. Gerry.
I mean, it's difficult to predict from, election to election, but I mean, that's the situation that we have in the last number of years, and we're going to have it for the next, and I wouldn't rule it out for foreseeable future.
Right. Owen Ryan and Gerry Reidy, thank you very much for joining us today on Scariff Bay Community Radio. Paul has a final question.
Yeah, just going back to a full circle on from where it is we started. We might have drifted a little bit from that more into kind of political strategy for parties and that type of thing. But an interesting development here now, which I didn't realise, is that the two-party tally, which has been here for a long time now, looks like it's turning into a three-party tally, perhaps, with the Green involvement. And if it's done properly, it's very welcome.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 or 4 people the Greens had in with us was, it was very effective and it worked well. And everybody loses in. Go back to the conversation we had earlier. It is our only opportunity to get that level of intelligence. And for everyone. For everyone. And, if you could have the alternative to the way we did it was, circle the wagons with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. And you still have the people looking over your shoulder and nobody wins. If you can get agreement and get the most effective way of doing it is 2 people at every booth and marking the people behind it. That's the most efficient way of doing it, and you can do it amicably or you can do it the other way, and everybody loses then.
Exactly.
Gerry, and can I tell you a story that I told last night now? Micheál Hogan could be good to him, but you probably knew him quite well. Yeah. Great Fianna Fáil activist. Yeah. But, and he'd know what would be happening on the ground, kind of. But an individual whom I won't name moved into the Bodyke area about 30 years ago, and he voted in the first election. And he was talking to Micheál one night in the pub and said, you don't know how I voted. Oh, we do, he says. There was only one Labour vote ever in Bodyke until you came along. And he was right. So you can drill down to that level nearly, can you?
Gerry and Owen, we're going to leave you off. But Gerry, before you leave, and Owen, can we thank you for the work that you do? Because without the tallies,
we'd be lost.
We wouldn't be able to talk about the stuff. And they are so accurate. I mean, congratulations on a very successful electoral campaign, but also in the tallies. And Owen, I'd like to thank you. Thanks. Journalism is part of all of this as well. You're going to be reporting on this for the next week or 2, and we wish you every success. We look forward to we have our media show every Sunday. I don't know when it's going to come out, but we always pay a lot of attention to the Clare Champion and the Clare Echo. We'll say goodbye to you now, and thank you again, Gerry and Owen.
Thanks, lads.
Thanks, lads.
Thanks, lads. Most enjoyable conversation.